Okay, we're going to learn today a Sif and Shulchan Aruch, which is in a certain sense atypical, and it's Nageya. But aside from that, there's an aspect of understanding sometimes how halacha works that's worthwhile. Before we see it inside, I'd like to share with you the sefer called Makel Yaakov, a sefer written on Mesechtes Makis, that the author in his Hakdama tells over the following story. He was in Panovich, the city of Panovich. What? Am I unmuted? I'm unmuted.
No. We hear the Rav.
Okay. So he writes over there that he was in Panovich, and he was a Talmud of the Panovich Rav. And when the Panovich Rav would go away for rabbinical duties, nationally, international, so him and his friend, they would answer the questions, halachic questions. And then when the Panovich Rav would come back, he would ask what the questions were and answer. This is part of like a shimush kind of a operation. And he said, I was in the Panovich Rav's house when he came back from 2 weeks in Petersburg. And he came in, he didn't say hello to anybody. He walked straight into the kitchen and asked his wife, make me food. A very strange thing. And he ate with gusto. And then afterwards, he went to attend his business. What was going on, etc. So this fellow who's writing that over said, what just happened? What's going on? So he said, I was just in Petersburg for 2 weeks, and I did not eat any food for 2 weeks. Come on. I was starving. So I asked him, why didn't you eat any food for 2 weeks? So he said, I'm makbid on Chodesh, and there was no yashon, no yashon in Petersburg, so I couldn't eat anything. So I haven't eaten anything for 2 weeks. I'm going out of my mind. I haven't satiated myself, so I needed to satiate myself. So the man asks him. He said, "You make it sound like you're the only Rav there. What do all the other Rabbanim do at this rabbi's convention? You're the only one there that was starving?" So he said, and this is the important part of the story, he said there were only 2 other Rabbanim out of all the Rabbanim there that were makbid on Chodesh. One was the Chaim Brisker, and the other was the Or Sameach. Except for those 2, all the other Rabbanim were Meiko. So he said, no, and what did the Or Sameach and the Chaim do? So the Chaim, the Briskers, the Chaim, he had a deal with a lady who lives in Petersburg that she always had extra yashon grain for him when he came to town. So he was misudar. He didn't have a problem. And Rameir Simcha was only makbid when he was in Dvinsk. When he wasn't in Dvinsk, he was Meiko. So he didn't have a problem. So I was the only guy with a problem. So you could understand from this. I can tell you, you can read this in Hakdama, the sefer called Makel Yaakov Makis, and it's a fascinating story. A few other interesting stories over there in Hakdama. But what am I saying over from the story? What's the point of the story? Klal Yisrael was Meiko. I think that we could gather from this that Klal Yisrael was Meiko. In recent times, there's a fellow who was actually lived, I think, last year, maybe 2 years ago, from Muncie, and that he spearheaded in America the subject of Yashar or Chodesh. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what the subject is. What's it called? Chodesh, okay. By Yimach Chodesh, Yimach by Yashar. What do you say? What do you say?
Once you use
I don't remember exactly how
it's not Yoshan, but it's Chodesh. So
yeah, whatever. So this fellow, his name was Herman. He created a list for people to follow, and based on the codes, nothing to do with Rabbi Weissmandel, based on the codes on the packaging, a person will be able to find out. Does anybody know what will you be able to find out? The dates of
Production.
Harvest.
they're closer. It's the dates of when it was produced, and based on that date, we know if what this is very important. We know if there's vadai no shaila of chodesh. We, in other words, that will tell you if it's vadai yosha. It will not tell you if it's fresher than that date. It won't tell you that it's chodesh. It'll tell you that it could be chodesh. This is very, very important. We're going to see in a minute why. In other words, so if you use these codes, so that you can be certain that you don't have a shaila of yashon, of chodesh. But it doesn't tell you if you don't follow the code. It doesn't tell you that being nichshol with chodesh.
After Pesach, there are a lot of times, and a lot of the,
After Pesach, everything's okay.
No, I know that. Yeah, but it could be from before. So
Yeah, so that's
it's
but
not
this is
gonna-
first.
it's not gonna-
So here, before we plunge into the halacha itself, I just want to make it clear, and we'll see in the Mishnah Berurah, the minig in Klal Yisrael was to be made. Period. Why? That's already a good question.
Even in Eretz Yisrael?
Now I'll tell you, as far as Eretz Yisrael is concerned, there's a sefer called Minhagi Eretz Yisrael written by somebody with Gellis. The sefer is many years old, and there on the subject of Chodesh, it says that it's been asked what the minig in Eretz Yisrael is, and he says there is no minig. Why is there no minig? Huh? No. That's Yisrael Ben Gurion. That's not the reason why. That's not the reason why. The reason why is because the wheat that's grown here, they don't have summer wheat. It doesn't grow in the summer. They only have it once a year. In Chutz La'aretz, they grow it twice a year. So there is no, he says there is no minig because there is no question, because there is no Chodesh. There is no Chodesh. Right now, during Sefiras, actually when the wheat is cut. It's done once a year, and that's the end. And it doesn't have any problem. So he writes in his sefer that there is no minig in Eretz Yisrael. I've heard B'Shem Rav Yashiv that the minig Eretz Yisrael is to be machmer. But I say I challenge that because, as he said, however, as you've said before, there's wheat that's imported. What is imported? So I'm right now telling you right now facts that I knew as of maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I don't know if it changed, but it was like this the last time I checked. The Rabbanut will not allow in wheat that is not yosher. They will not give a hechsher on something that's yosher. Rabbanut, I'm not talking about the hechsher. But any hechsher that comes from Chutz La'aretz that allows chodesh, they let it.
It's already baked.
No, but it does make a difference. In other words, if you're makbid, you're makbid.
The market on things they import raw.
But that's like that's like I keep kosher at home, right? It doesn't say that necessarily chodesh. It doesn't say anything. They don't police it. They don't police it. This is their shita. What is the reason for their shita? I have no idea. I would imagine it's some kind of a status quo grandfather clause. Basically, that's what it is. and it has absolutely no halachic meaning to it. It's my guess. But I don't know, but that's my guess. If I recall correct, there was a situation many years ago that one of the foremost Achshem here in Yisrael made something, and after it was on the shelves already, they found out that it was a problem that was not Yashon, and it wasn't Bala Yashon, and they didn't make a recall from the Israeli Achshem. So what the real minig in Eretz Yisrael is, I don't know. But not that I don't know because I didn't research it. I did research it. And if I have to say what the minig is, I say there is no minig. This question is very important. Very important. Why? Because all of us over here, though we're speaking in English, we, except for you, we live in Eretz Yisrael. Where do you live? Oh, okay. Okay, we'll wait till next time we see you on Zoom. All right, anyways, right? Now, if all of Eretz Yisrael is makbid, so that becomes the minig hamakom. And when you will go to Chutz La'aretz, you're mechuyev to be machmer, even though before you made Aliyah, you weren't machmer. Where do you live? Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you going to change your mind now?
No.
Okay, so this becomes, this question is very, very big nafkamina. Allah Chamaisa. If Rabbi Yasha's right, then you're not allowed to eat your Cheerios when you're in Florida, and if not, you are. Very big nafkamina. Allah Chamaisa. Okay. Now, where do you live? Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll find some food that'll get you to the other side. At any rate, but this is it has a strong. So I've been asked this question many times. I am far from convinced that a person is going to mach when they go to Chutz. But it's not so simple. It's not so simple. Now, I would also like to address a standard which is in place, and this we call them grandfather clauses. We have situations that people were in a Shas Adchak situation, and therefore people were making a lot of things. And the situation has changed. So when do we upgrade ourselves? No, it's when the story which I said over about this fellow from Ponovich, right? So you understood what it meant to be makbid on Chodesh 80 years ago. Is that the situation today? That's not the situation. So therefore what? Now, this is a fascinating aspect of halacha. Now, after this introduction, we'll learn halacha. We're going to see some things, the way that the halacha is formatted, and have a little bit of a better understanding. Sif Yud. Tov Pei Tes Sif Yud. Aser Lecho Chodosh Af Bizman Hazeh. Okay, pretty straightforward. Ben Lechem, Ben Koli, Ben Carmel, Ad Chilas Lel Yudches Benisa. Until after Sveika the Omer of the Omer, Eretz Yisrael Ad Chilas Lel Yud Zayin. Okay, very simple halacha, not much going on in the top. Let's go down to the bottom. If you have thing which was planted afterwards, if it took root before the Omer was brought, the Omer Matira, it doesn't have to be cut grain for the Omer to be matir. It has to be considered a planted grain when the carbon Omer was brought. Even Bizan Zeh, it says, Lechem Koli Karma, Lo Yisachlo, Al Etzem HaYom Hazeh, Etzem HaYom Hazeh, today, B'chol Moshe Sechem Chutz La'aretz. The mashmin said the af b'chutz la'aretz na'igiser aretz hayom said the haino yom was a korban shut as zayin b'nisan u'mishum sveka the yom machmim al oid yom echad v'hine yidei reitz ad givul kasa v'ramah heter v'chodesh tahavi sveka. Now, sveka. I don't know how much to get involved in the technical aspect of sveka, but we'll start with the understanding the mechanics of it. Sometimes you have two separate reasons why something should be mutter. I would say since you have two svekas, so then you can make it. Sometimes you have a suffix within a suffix. Not two separate, they are fallout. And I'm going to just start with a mathematical kind of a appreciation of this. If I have, let's use the case of the Gemara, Tabah Shel Avodah Zarah, that fell into 5 other tabaos. So we say that it's not bottom. If it fell into 3, and then one of those 3 fell into another 2, then it could be bottom. How many do you have altogether?
Number. 2 stages.
You got the math.
I mean, to me, I saw 5. But,
I don't understand. That's why I'm playing cards over here. That's right. It's true. You have 5, but it's not 5.
Not the same probability.
it's 3 and 2.
3 and 2.
That changes the.
That changes
the percentage.
It doesn't change the percentage.
The initial percentage that changes.
What?
Mathematically,
But no, that you're going to hit it. But even if let's say, but it's not. So let's say it will be 1 in 5 one way, and now it's 1 in 25. Okay, what would happen if the first time it fell into 25? It would also be awesome. You fell to 100. So it's not the percentage that makes the difference, right? In other words, if it fell into 1 in 100, it's also not bottom. But if it fell into 3, and then from that 3 it fell into another
stages of suffix.
2 stages of suffix. So it's called a suffix within a suffix. So, and I use this mashal all the time. It says, you have to clear the question. No, there comes a question as to, do I have to address the issue? Not every suffix, not every actuary's probabilities doesn't mean that I have to discuss it. That's called a sveik. That's something the suffix in a suffix, and sometimes it's 2 sveikas, and I'm not going to get involved in the halachic difference between them, but we'll have a suffix. And I would use this, the Gemara says, if an Ari went into, we have a sheep, and we're not sure if the sheep was swiped by a nail of an Ari, and if it was, it became a treifa. So the Gemara says, Safik Doras, Safik Nichnas, Safik Loy Nichnas. Maybe it didn't go into that lul altogether. If you're Nichnas, Safik Doras, Safik Loy Doras, it's called the Sveik. So there's a question. Why don't you start with the second one? Why do we have to discuss the first one? So sometimes you have to discuss the first one because in order to get to the second question, you first have to go through the first question. That's not always the case. I have over here a box of cereal. I'm not sure if it's Chodesh or not. Is it legitimate for me to say, maybe it's this year's Tfuah, maybe it's last year's Tfuah, and if it's this year's Tfuah, maybe it's from after the Omer? Or do I just say, maybe it's from after the Omer? No, that's what I asked. Is that, I only have one suffix. Is it from before the Omer or after the Omer? Do I care which year it's from? You didn't hear that. You didn't hear that from me. so but I'm going to give you this class. Right? I didn't introduce that idea at all. I didn't say it doesn't exist. I didn't discuss that idea. Maybe we'll discuss it soon. But as of right now, I know nothing about it. I asked the question based on information which I presented. Is it legitimate for me to say maybe it's from this year from last year? It's from this year, maybe it's from after the HaOmer. Or did I say maybe it's from before the HaOmer, after the HaOmer? What year it is? In Shulchan Aruch, in Yeridea, it says it's called the Sveik Sveika. Some of the poskim don't like the Sveik Sveika, and others will explain why it is a Sveik Sveika, if it's just like the case of the Ari or not. So now let's see what it says over here in the Mishnah. The what?
With this Herman fellow take away one of our Svekas now easily track down.
He can't do anything.
It won't change
He cannot tell us anything about what's in here. That's exactly the point. He does absolutely nothing for us. He tells you when you don't have a question. But when you have a question, you have the exact same question as you had without it. You understand? What?
If it's early enough, you can show good.
They don't have a question. They don't have a question. But on what I have a question, he didn't change anything. Okay? And this is very true, and I'm just going to tell you something. This is very true, especially when someone will ask me, and this I tried to research this. From the things that the biggest, most important American food, that's a question of chodesh that people, for my favorite English words, need to eat. Cheerios. Like the world, what would the world do without Cheerios, right? Okay, fine. So they don't think they're in South Africa, do they? They do? Okay, fine. Anyways, so oats are way earlier. They're usually in October. It's very problematic. Now, and I've noticed this. The cereal boxes have usually productions right after October. There's November production, and there's not every month. They don't make cereal. They don't make Cheerios every day, right? So the ones that are made right after the Suffolk time, what are their chances? If you're talking about at the end of the year, so then the chances of it being Chodosh are higher. The end of the season. The end of the season.
November, December.
When I'm not it's the end of the season. When it's when the crops are harvested. So then it's not it's not last in, first out. They're always rotating their schar, otherwise they get bugs in them. So even though it's theoretical that there could be chodesh over there, as you get further into time, the percentage of chodesh becomes greater. Because always use old stuff first because they don't want it to get wormy. Right? That's called rotating your stock, right? That's so.
There's another issue I was from a friend about a bakery.
Yeah.
They would get better production from the Yashan because it's dried out more.
100%.
So there's an advantage to using Yashan.
100%. And not only that, those people who by Pesach time they buy garlic fresh and dry it out, they think they're saving a bundle. They're not saving so much because after it dries out, you find out that you paid for a lot of water, right? But that garlic is much harder to peel than the stuff that you buy that's dried already. There's a price you pay for being cheap. It tastes different. That's a different issue. But yeah, that's 100% true. But I will tell you that about 15 years ago, Purim time, one of the big Yashan bakeries in Borough Park, they found worms on Thursday night in the challahs that they produced, and they checked, and there was in a lot of stuff. There was worms, and they had to make a recall. It was a real mess. Okay, so Chodosh is with the suffix, worms are a vadai. So whatever, I'm just saying you have to know how to balance all the things. Anyways, let's see what it says over here. Yeah, the Ramah says a suffix. Chodesh Shemat Tfuah Mishana Shal. Rovim Tim Tzloim Mishana Zo. Dilma Nishashal Kodam HaOmer. It's pre-Omer stuff and it's kosher. Then you could say that maybe it came from there. Now, this is fascinating what happened in those times. You can make all chitim and shufim because also there, you know that it wasn't like that. I will say, which you go to shul, rubuk makulim nizam achar pesach. V'gam ein rogel lahavi sham tvum medinas acherois. So you don't have a suffix that maybe came from elsewhere. V'ein lahakam lehem. Mikol mokom roi v'olam ein nizarim klal v'yisachadar. So the Mishnah Berurah says after everything is said and done, if you go by the text, we should have a problem. And I don't see that happening. I don't recall this exactly right, so I don't want to be quoted on it. But if I'm not mistaken, the people who drink beer have a real problem of Yashon, because it's only harvested at one time a year, and it should be a problem come out the whole year long. Maybe, but most of it doesn't have it. It's the regular imported stuff. Anyways, so we're Malamed Tzchus, as we said in our story, which I said over. Here you go. We found you. The Chodesh in Chutz La'aretz is the Divrei Seifrim, and the Gozro only on places Shechos Eretz Yisrael. Yesh Olam Neim Zchus, Shesam Shechodesh Erinoi Yigal B'Tvuah Shal Yisrael. It has to be Jewish Tvuah, not Goyish Tvuah. Avol B'Shel Akum, you don't say that. The fish is that Tzach Lizor Yisrael Sheyesh Lo Tvuah, that he has to worry about. V'hinei, Av She'em Yodeinu Limchas B'Yad HaMekilim. We can't be moicha. The minig is to be meiko. We call moko bal nefesh lo yismach al haterim halalu. He shouldn't be samech on these haterim. V'yachmir la'atzmo b'chol ma she'ev shalom. What does that say? Someone translate that into English. Yachshir la'atzmo b'chol ma she'ev shalom. What does that mean? I don't think it says that. I don't think it says that.
Do your best.
Do your best. Do your best. When you have you go to the store and you have the option to go to the Chodesh, to the Yashan aisle. It's going to cost you a couple bucks. What's it going to cost you a year to be mach? Now, what happens when you're going someplace where they don't have? It's never a question.
It's made by me belongs to Nako. Also, Cheerios is probably Gosh, right? It's not Jewish.
Yeah.
And it's made of Chotza.
You're not talking about the company. You're talking about the grains.
Right.
The grain. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Can I ask you a question? This is not a personal question. I'm speaking to your children right now. How important is it to you to eat Cheerios? I think that was like sacrilege. Did I say something wrong? Right. So I didn't say anything. I just, you have to know. So this is an issue. I'm just saying what happened. It's kosher lizoyer. I get asked many times questions in kashrus, so I say, and I'm using chodesh as an example. There are many things in chutz la'aretz that people are making a lot, and then I tell them achmaran. Do you need it? From the questions I get asked all the time. When I go back to chutz la'aretz, I have to makbid on chol yisrael. What is it that you want to have? What? So when I ask that question, for some reason people turn red. Because they don't want to say what it is that they want to have. They don't want to bring any back from me. I don't know, right? But it's not probably something that's so essential, right? It's not. So there's a question over here. So I'm not saying all shilas are equal. Just saying you have to know when you bring mekel for what and for why. Okay. I want you to know if you would have told this to me a month ago, I would respond different than I'm going to respond right now. The Chavetz Chaim in Avas Chesed discusses if a person is going to pay his worker, he's not going to be able to have Oinik Shabbos. Which one wins out? He says Oinik Shabbos is a deraisa. He has a whole long piece, and in many places would disagree with him. But I will tell you that probably you can reclaim Oinik Shabbos with other things too, right?
And some people don't do dishes over the Shabbos. Other people.
So I said, so if you can, so could be. I could be, but I would just say that this is only a 1 year question. Because you buy now for next year. Right? You know you're going to be drinking beer next year on Shabbos, right? I mean, if this is your second, we're speaking about the person, this is Oinik Shabbos. This is a serious thing, right? He's not going to be caught dead without a bottle of beer, right? Right? So you have to stock up. You buy a year in advance.
Oh, we said there's a year long problem.
No, yeah, but it's only one first year problem. It's only the first year problem. Then I have the HaOmer for the next year. Right? It's good? Okay, fine. I'll trust you. All right, anyways. But yes, I'm not arguing. It could very well be that you are correct. That that's the representing Shabbos. All right, anyways. And you have a question over this in the rice. With that, the after the sound of Shem Achor in the Chitin, a loch called Shemish Achodesh, we play the Roy Nizu Bavada and the Chodesh one. Kayom Shadech Lahab El Dech Musil Sabar Zal Kel Chitin Mekavus Archoikim. Today we bring, we bring from far away. The Yadua Shebefnim Merum Tzianim Zahabi Mekavus Shadizu Chitin Mekayet. They have a surplus of fresh stuff. Notice if the chances are that it's a problem, then it's a problem. Etc. Okay. So, but the bottom line is that the Mishabura says the minig is to be mekel. If you can be machmer, you should be machmer. Here in Eretz Yisrael, you don't have a problem. Bagadol, you don't have a problem. Bagadol, you don't have a problem. If you eat chutzlar's products, then you have to consider if you have this issue or not. I didn't say, it's even though the hechsher is a good hechsher, and this has changed dramatically. When this fellow, Rabbi Herman, started his campaign, so he went to all the Gedolim in America to ask them if they support him doing this. And all of them answered exactly the same thing, just everybody with different words. They said you can make a grassroots movement, don't make anything, don't make a big deal about it, don't say that it's usher, it's you can make it, and if it picks up, people will be machmir. That's a good thing, but don't speak against the Minigan Klal Yisrael. And they were very Moshe, Yaakov, all the Gedolim. I think the Chassidische Gedolim also. Today in America, I've checked this out a few times. I don't think that there's what's called a Mahadran Hechsher that's not machmir on Joshua. Do you agree with that?
maybe the trees you're buying, they're okay then, because if they're mahadra, then they're fine.
So I said that's if you're buying a Mahadran Hechsher, but if you're going to buy an OU Hechsher or something like that, it's not like that. So that's you have to know exactly what you're buying. But there are plenty of places that they take care of this issue, and the person can have it without any problem, usually.